Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over 5 running backs that should perform very well in your fantasy playoffs due to their easy schedules. Also, we have some honorable mentions at the end. But before we get into that, I want to encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button at the end of the video, of course, if you did enjoy. Before this video does begin as well, I want to mention that I'm going to be covering weeks 15 through 17. I'm not going to be covering week 18 because you never know who's going to play. Let's say I tell you that Miles Sanders is going to have an easy schedule through week 18, and then it gets to week 18 of your playoffs and he doesn't play because the Eagles have already secured the #1 seed. It makes no sense for me to go over that information. You never know who's going to play that week. So weeks 15 through 17 are going to be featured in this video. Without further ado, #1 on this list is going to be Alvin Kamara. I know he's been struggling as of late and we're getting a little bit impatient on this guy, but just listen to this playoff schedule here. We have Atlanta, who is number 22nd against the run fantasy points wise. We have Cleveland, who is 31st. Then we have Philadelphia, who is 25th. So all bottom 12 in the league, all bottom 10 in the league in that category. Alvin Kamara should do very well in these matchups. You know, the problem with the Saints so far into the season is that they get into these matchups, just like we saw against the 49ers, where they just do not score any points, or they put up like 7 to 14 points maximum. That shouldn't happen in these games because the defenses aren't absolutely amazing. The perks about playing the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, and the Philadelphia Eagles is these are all teams that try to outscore you, right? They're not going to just wow you with defense for the most part. So I'm pretty confident in Kamara in your fantasy playoffs. I know, like I said, this year he's been very inconsistent throughout the season, but he hasn't been playing bottom 10 fantasy football defenses against running backs. I think you feel a little more confident in the playoffs in him. Next up at #2 is Ramondre Stevenson, pretty much the exact opposite of Alvin Kamara in his consistency. He's been super consistent throughout this season. First playoff matchup is against the Las Vegas Raiders, who rank 29th against running backs in fantasy football. You love that matchup. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals, who rank 10th. Not so much, but Ramondre provides a safety blanket. He provides a high floor because of his pass catching ability. So he could either go crazy, score you about 25, 30 points, or he's going to sit around 15 if he has, you know, a decent to bad game, in my opinion. So high floor, we'd love to see that with running backs. And then the last matchup in his fantasy playoff season is going to be against the Miami Dolphins, who rank 14th. So like I said, once again, that's a spot where you have a high floor and a high ceiling with Ramondre just because he catches so many passes. Not the hardest playoff schedule in the world. Also, not the easiest. Kamara, I think, by far has the easiest. Ramondre, just a little bit harder, but I still think you can be very confident in him, playing him in your playoffs. Coming in at #3 here, we have Aaron Jones, another guy with absolutely massive pass catching upside. This guy can go off for 30 points at any given week. Been a little bit inconsistent this season, but kind of finding his way these past couple of weeks, which you like to see. You like to see that consistency out of your running backs if you're going to feel fully confident starting them in your playoffs. Aaron Jones is a guy that I feel like you have to play every single week. Of course, he was drafted very high. Week #1 of your fantasy playoffs, he's going to be going against the Los Angeles Rams, which is a tough matchup, I'm not going to lie, but he has that high floor, just like Ramondre Stevenson does. I'm feeling pretty confident that he can get you past this first week of the playoffs and then get to week #2, where he plays the Miami Dolphins. Middle tier, they're ranked 14th against running backs, so you're a little more confident in that matchup. And then the final matchup, the championship week, if you will, hopefully you guys make it there, against the Minnesota Vikings, who rank 21st. So they are a bottom 12 defense against running backs. Aaron Jones should thrive, and the Packers do play pretty well against the Minnesota Vikings. So if you get to that last week, I'm very confident Aaron Jones will do well for you guys. Now, #4 on this list is David Montgomery, who is going against the Philadelphia Eagles week 1 of your fantasy playoffs, who rank 25th currently against running backs. That is very bad. You should see a high upside potential for David Montgomery here. This is barring a Khalil Herbert return before the fantasy playoffs. If they do decide to bring him back this year, then he's going to put a little bit of a dent into David Montgomery's production. So I would definitely watch out for that. But if Montgomery is the only running back in the backfield here, I'm pretty confident that he'll do well throughout your playoffs. Week #2, going against the Buffalo Bills, who rank 13th. That's very very middle of the road against running backs. And then week number 3 in your fantasy playoffs against the Detroit Lions, who rank 16th. So he should have great upside potential in the fantasy playoffs for you. And coming in at number 5 here, we have Kyron Williams. He is a guy that's on the rise, not as well known of a name as the rest of these people that I mentioned, but he has a pretty good fantasy playoff schedule against the Green Bay Packers week number 1, which is 26th ranking in the league against running backs. You'd love to see that. Kyron Williams is also a guy that's going to be catching a lot of passes, you would hope, out of the backfield. And when Matt Stafford returns, you know, you want to see a lot of checkdowns to Kyron Williams. I would monitor that this week. In week 13, you want to see how many times Matt Stafford checks it down to Kyron Williams and how many attempts Kyron Williams gets out of this backfield to really see his potential in the fantasy playoffs for you. Week number 2 of the fantasy playoffs against the Denver Broncos, who have the 11th best running defense. You know, you don't love that. Not particularly a great matchup, but like I said, if he has that pass catching potential, then you would be confident in this matchup regardless. And then last but not least, ending it off with the Los Angeles Chargers, who rank 28th against running backs. Great matchup to end your season on. And if he performs well up to that point, I'd be very confident starting him. Even though the Rams are an offense that aren't particularly the best, they could still stay in this matchup because of their defense, I think. And quickly, we have some honorable mentions here. DeAndre Swift and also Jonathan Taylor, who has a very easy fantasy playoff schedule. I do have my concerns about both of these guys. Starting off with DeAndre Swift, we don't really know his full role. Like, is he just a complement to Jamal Williams? Is Jamal Williams going to continue to get 20 to 25 carries in games that are close for the Lions? Or is DeAndre Swift going to slowly take back some of that role and hopefully for Swift owners, some of that red zone work? Or is he just more of a pass catcher for this team and he's going to continue to get 5 to 6 carries a game? We'll have to monitor that situation into the playoffs, but his schedule is the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, and the Chicago Bears. So not the worst schedule in the world, also not the best. But Jonathan Taylor here, Minnesota Vikings, 21st in the league. Los Angeles Chargers, 28th in the league, and the New York Giants, 15th in the league. Very favorable playoff schedule for you guys, but my concern with Jonathan Taylor is that this team can put up a dud any week, and we've seen it in the past where they just cannot put points on the board. I know the offense runs through Taylor when he's fully healthy. I'm just not 100% confident that you're not going to see a weak game out of him in any of these matchups if the Colts struggle. We know that Taylor is a very talented player. That's not even to be questioned. It's just the lack of the team and the offensive line that I'm kind of worried about. I'm a little on the fence about it. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video at all, please drop a thumbs up on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out, guys.